Hi everyone, you have tuned into People Know It, the podcast for people. This is season 2, the all inclusive table, and I am your host, Sanya Sharma. Please do follow the podcast on your favorite audio and video platform and do leave a comment. Well, here we are finally with season 2. Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for tuning into the second season, which is our episode 14. How amazing! And oh my god, it has been a while, more than 365 days since I last spoke to you. Now, it has been a long time, and I know the question is obviously why the delay? And actually, it's both fortunate and unfortunate. Let me start with why it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because obviously, for an artist, not creating art is unfortunate. It also means a lack of connection between me and you for 365 days. But the part that is fortunate is that it allowed me the time I needed to focus on navigating my return back to law. Yes, the last year, and well, if you followed my podcast in the first season, you know that I created it during career break when I was navigating a break from the legal industry. And I created it in my house in Assam in India. But then I decided to return to law, and we will talk about it in the coming episodes. So I decided to do that, and I spent the last 1 year focusing on my return to the law. So, in a way, not having any creative project around me at that time was good because I was not distracted and I could single mindedly focus on doing what I think was priority at that time, which is navigating a return. And the other fortunate part is that it allowed you time to think and to process and to develop new perspectives. Now, here is the thing about me that you need to know. And I think it's true for a lot of artists or people who like art. Sometimes it's difficult to just rush in and say things just because you should be saying it, or just because you should be releasing a season as soon as possible, or doing things as soon as possible. It's nice to have that plan and it's nice to have that momentum. But I often sit back and think, well, hey, do I actually have something that I really want to say? And do I think what I'm saying has the potential to add value to my listeners? And I don't think I really had that for a very long time. And it was sad because you can sit and you can scribble and you can brainstorm, but if you don't have that inspiration, you don't. Because trust me, doing a podcast, recording the episodes, and coming up with a script and ideas, moving everything, your schedule takes a lot of time and it's a lot of commitment. It eats up your social calendar quite a bit. So you really do have to feel passionate about doing something. And for me, inspiration finally came 365 days later in the summer of London 2024 on the South Bank in the form of an art exhibition. I mean, who would have thought, right? Like art exhibition, inspiration for podcasts. How is that possible? Well, I love art for many reasons. I grew up with a lot of exposure to art in different ways. So I do attend a lot of exhibitions. And one exhibition that actually got me thinking quite a bit was this exhibition by an artist called Tavares Strachan. There is light somewhere on the South Bank. So Tavares is an artist whose work has been described as the practice of visibility. That's what he focuses on, and he has created the Encyclopaedia of Invisibility, which is about 2,400 pages full of people, events, I guess also perspectives that have just gone unnoticed or have not been talked about. I think visibility is such an important thing. And this exhibition came to me at a time when I was actively thinking about it because honestly, visibility can be thought of as a silent killer for everybody. If you are an artist, if you're a professional, if you are, uh, even in your social circles, think about it. What is not visible is presumed to not exist. So if your art is not visible, it's presumed to not exist. If you are not visible, it's presumed that you don't exist. And that is why visibility becomes so important. Because, in a way, visibility, through making something visible, we are approving of its existence. it's an enactment, right? Like you're seeing something and you have affirmed that, yes, we see you, you exist. We saw your expedition to North Pole, it exists. We saw you swim across the English Channel, that swim happened. So that's one aspect of visibility. But it actually goes beyond than just recognition and affirmation, because at the core, visibility is actually about belonging. Because when you see something, when you affirm it, when you recognize it, you are saying that, yes, there are these 100 perspectives that exist. Yours is the 101st perspective. We see it, we recognize it, and it belongs on this table. That is the power of visibility. Well, if I've not summarized it correctly, I'm going to read out a paragraph from this exhibition handbook, which I've been reading quite a bit, and it's really nice. So it says, and it's mostly describing Tavares's work. So I'm reading out now, quote, much of Strachan's work appears to turn on the nature of being seen and the peril of being overlooked, on presence, absence, and displacement, on the invisible and the unvisible, that which is not seen while in plain view. The titles of some of his past exhibitions reflect these concerns: Magnificent Darkness, In Total Darkness, In Plain Sight, In Broad Daylight, Invisibles, How to Make Someone Invisible, Seeing is Forgetting the Thing That You Saw, Seen Unseen, as does the name of his 2024 Hayward Gallery exhibition, There is Light Somewhere. Perhaps Strachan's approach to art making might be characterized as a practice of visibility, a practice that involves asserting presence in resistance to the denial of personhood, illuminating the lives of those otherwise overlooked, inviting consideration of which perspectives in society are represented and which are marginalized, in order to highlight a status quo rife with erasures, inviting seeing by enacting being. That is so powerful. It is so powerful. And it is a stark reminder that we do exist in a society where a lot of things are invisible, a lot of journeys are invisible. We are very short sighted that way. And just because they're not visible, don't mean that they don't exist. It's just that they're not talked about or they haven't received the right platform. And there can be many reasons why that is not the case. Because they lack a representative, because something like that has never happened, or because there is a certain thinking within us that needs to change for that specific event or perspective to receive the visibility that it deserves. And that is where belonging comes in, right? Because when we cross the barriers within us and grant visibility to something, we are in a way transcending a barrier that prevented us from making something visible. And that was what led me to conceptualize this season of the podcast. And it's called the All Inclusive Table. Because I thought, well, hey, you can sit and think about, oh, let me do something and I will get visibility from it. You know, conceptualize and strategize for the ideal enactment that is going to grant you visibility. But does it really work that way? As I gave this example earlier, that you might make that expedition to North Pole, but it's not necessary that that expedition is what people are going to remember. Or you might decide to launch this podcast. It's not necessary that everybody is going to tune into it. That may or may not happen. So that can't be the reason to chase visibility or the reason to think about visibility or the way to even promote the cause of visibility. So that brings us to this whole thing, which Tavares talks about, the practice of visibility. So I thought if I had to imbibe the practice of visibility in my routine, in my schedule, in my work, how do I do it? And I thought, well, I do it by creating my own table where I decide what is the perspective I want to make visible, who are the people I want to make visible, What is it that I want to talk about? And that is me practicing the art of visibility, because I'm not waiting here for things that matter to me to become visible automatically through someone else. I am taking the step to make them visible. I'm exercising my power by creating a stage to make those things that are important to me visible. And there is something very powerful in it, because in a way you're breaking this notion or disrupting the status quo, which thinks that there is some grand stage and you must wait to get to the grand stage before getting the visibility that you want, or the only visibility that you can receive is the visibility on this grand stage. No, there is no need for a grand stage. Small tables are enough, run by people who want to take the agency to grant visibility to something that's important to you. So that's what I did. This is my table, but we're not going to wait for people to give belonging. We are here to create belonging, to create space, to talk about things that are important. And what is the thing that I'm going to talk about first? Well, I'm going to talk about first a perspective known as the East West perspective and the East West personality. There is a bit of a mystery there, and I'm going to leave you with that mystery in this episode because, well, hey, if everything was laid out there on the table, why would you tune into the next episode? So you've got to tune into the next episode to figure out what is this East West personality and what is this East West perspective. But I can tell you that all of this is geared towards the primary anchor, or let me say, not the primary anchor, just the anchor of my podcast and my project and everything, which is capacity building and skill building. And I think the East West perspective that we will talk about links very much to skill building, which I will also talk about. Everything in the next episode. Stay tuned. Welcome again to season 2. It's going to be exciting. Just to give you a bit more information on the format for this season, you will hear me talking solo for a few seasons. We have this cool video format now, which I think should be a nice experiment, and I would be keen to know your feedback. Because I am talking, this will also be short episodes. Like last one, they were short, and these might be shorter or just about the size of our previous episodes. I think it's good that way. And the other thing that I'm going to introduce in this season is a book of my choice. I am not going to read the whole book, but for a few episodes, I'm going to pick one book and I'm going to read out a few extracts from that book, which I think relates to the topic that we are talking about because I love books. You can see books and London weather. And I think books have been my favorite companion and they have always been there to give me wise counsel. So I think it's good that I gave my friends a spot on my table. The first book that I'm going to read from in this season is called Courage is Calling. It's a book by Ryan Holiday, and I really enjoyed this book. I actually read this book during my career break, and it really helped me push myself out of my comfort zone and to do a lot of uncomfortable things like launching this podcast or again launching a second season or deciding to come back into law. So thanks, Ryan Holiday, for all that inspiration. Uh, the extract that I'm going to read today is from his chapter, which is called "No Time for Hesitating." And the reason I'm reading it out today is also because even when I was launching the second season, I was like, "Oh my god, I haven't perfected the idea, and there are so many things I want to do." But then I picked the book up and I read this extract, and I decided now is the time to do it. So, what does this extract say? If you had more time, you'd overthink it. You'd come up with a reason. Your self preservation would kick in. You'd be scared. You'd freeze. And where does that leave your friends? Where does that leave your comrades, your cause? No, you have to go. You have to hit send. You have to push the child out of the way. You have to step forward. You have to speak up. There's not even time to clear your throat first. You don't get to sleep on it. You don't get to run through all the scenarios. You don't get to ask for advice because people are counting on you, because this is what you were trained for, because this is what the situation demands, what your ideals demand. Trust your gut, do your duty. Maybe it will work out, maybe it won't. The hero does it anyway. As Kelly would say of those Marines, it was 6 seconds in the alley, 1 second to recognize the situation, 2 seconds to raise their weapons and fire, two more critical seconds for the bullets to do their work and stop the truck, and just one fleeting second left to live, less than even what you've spent reading this sentence. 6 seconds. Not enough time to think about their families, their country, their flag, or about their lives or their deaths. Kelly later said, but more than enough time for two very brave young men to do their duty into eternity. That is the kind of people who are on watch all over the world tonight for you. Don't let them down. So good. So, for all those people who are on watch for you, your friends, your family members, don't let them down. Today's message is do that thing that you are procrastinating, whatever that might be. Maybe it's learning to make a coffee so that you can fulfill your mother's dream of having a coffee made by you. You never know, things don't have to be grand. Sometimes they can just be small, but they can have an impact. And that is what I think we should be aiming for when we are talking about visibility. What is the impact of this visibility that we are giving someone or not giving someone? I think there lies the answer to what is worth fighting for and what is not worth fighting for. On that note, I am going to take your leave, but I will meet you in our next episode. Stay tuned and take care.